guys, here come the dollies. They got fresh sinkers, hot coffee, and the sweetest smile.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Clubmobile. Thank you for joining us again.
Good morning, everybody.
Today joining us, we have Dr. Olympia Kiriakou. Hi Olympia, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm very, very excited for this one.
This has your name written all over it, Winnie.
Yeah. As a lover of old Hollywood, as everyone who listens knows, this one is very exciting for me. This will kind of be a part 2 to our Carole Lombard episode. So, Dr. Olympia, can you go ahead and give us a background of your job and what it is that you do?
Sure. So I am a film historian. So I teach, I research, and I write about classical Hollywood. My specialty is stardom, genre, and gender. My first book is about Carole Lombard. It's called Becoming Carole Lombard, Stardom, Comedy, and Legacy. And it's not a biography. It's more of like a critical analysis of the evolution of her star persona and film roles from basically like the early 1920s till 1942, which is the year that she died. And I'm currently in the process of publishing my second book, which is about the actress Virginia Gray. And she also has a bit of a connection to Carole Lombard. I'm sure we'll talk about that a bit later. She was predominantly a character actress. She worked from, again, like the 1920s through to the 1970s. So she had a very long, varied career. Yeah, so that's a little bit about me. I publish other stuff as well, but in journals here and
That's
there.
like your
So
main.
those are my two like main big projects, yeah.
What was it about Carole that attracted you to her specifically to write a book about her?
Yeah, I was going to say, especially also old Hollywood. Like, what was it about that era that really made you say, this is what I want to do with my life?
I've always sort of been interested in old Hollywood. My mom is a huge movie fan, and she always was watching TCM when I was growing up. And when I was in high school and into college, I worked at a movie store in the summers, and they had a huge collection of Criterions and old Hollywood videos, or DVDs, I should say. And so I would sort of teach myself about this era just by buying all these movies. And one day I came across, it's called Carole Lombard, The Glamour Collection. It's like a little box set of her films. And I was put on the first film, which was Hands Across the Table. And I was just so captivated by her screen presence. She was so energetic and vibrant and cheeky. And I just felt an immediate connection to her. And I just thought, I want to learn more about her. And so I was maybe 15, 16. So it's been a number of years and I've just continue learning all I can about her.
That's definitely one thing I've noticed is that every time you watch her, she has like this impish twinkle in her eyes. She's very cheeky.
Yes. Yeah, it's like almost like she's in on the joke and she's sort of inviting you in to like laugh along with her, which I think is so fun.
It's very, very cute.
Exactly. She takes her job seriously, but I don't think she takes like the comedy seriously. It's sort of, she's having fun with it.
Yeah. And I also feel like whenever you watch her, that she acts like she doesn't know what's coming next. Whereas a lot of movies, I think today you can see in their head that they're still following the script. Whereas I feel like she effortlessly would spit back on the joke as if it was so natural. And that's one of the things I really, really like about her. Even though I've only watched 3 or 4 of her movies, that's something that I've always noticed.
Yeah, you don't really see the gears turning in her head, like the anticipation of what might happen next. She's just kind of there for the ride.
Absolutely. Yeah, she's very locked in and she had incredible comedic timing. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that she really cut her teeth working in comedy. Her early years in Hollywood were spent working with Max Sennett, who was a prolific slapstick film producer. And so she learned about timing, what was funny, what wasn't, really on the job. And so I think that really lent itself well to when when screwball comedy became popular and she sort of found her niche in that genre.
Yeah.
I think, and do you think that maybe that's what the attraction was to her and her first husband, William Powell? Because he is, I mean, I say it all the time. I think he's hysterical. He was
Yeah.
such a great comedy actor.
Mhm.
And I think that might be what lended their attraction to each other initially.
I think so. I think her energy and her spirit really spoke to him, and they were very different people. He was
Hmm.
16 years older. I think he was much more set in his ways by that point in his life, and I think she brought this like jolt of energy. Um, to his life. And well, ultimately, they did divorce fairly soon after they got married. They were only married for from 1931 to 1933, but they remained very good friends until she died. I think they just got each other. They appreciated each other. They respected each other. And I think their friendship was more important to them than whatever differences that they may have had in
Yeah.
their romantic
Right.
relationship.
Yeah. There was sort of one connection that I made between her marrying Powell and then her success growing. I
Mhm.
like to think that she was successful independently, but do you think her marrying Powell had something to do with this sudden jolt of stardom? Do you think it was her own doing, or was it purely because she was then married to one of the most famous actors of the time that sort of propelled her?
I think it certainly helped her and just like, becoming attached to Clark Gable in her later career, although she was by that point a very well established star, that certainly did help her as well. But Lombard's success in sort of like the mainstream didn't really happen until after she was divorced from William Powell. So it may have given her like an initial boost, but
Mm.
she didn't really achieve her level of like superstardom till 1934 after she made 20th Century. So it was a very slow climb to the top for her.
Yeah. I think in the previous episode about Carol, I probably got a few things incorrect because I would say Carol is the actress I know least about in terms of like the people I enjoy watching. Could you
Mhm.
give us a quick rundown of her career and how she started? And I also know she was in a car accident, right? When she was 19, had a scar on her face. Did that affect roles like she thought it would, or was that a case of people just ignored it?
It definitely affected her. So she was born in Indiana, and when she was a very young child, her parents separated. They didn't officially divorce, but her mom took her and her brothers to California. So she essentially grew up in Los Angeles. And her first film role came in 1921. She was 12 years old. It was in the Alan Dwan film called A Perfect Crime. And she has a very little small part, and unfortunately, the film is lost, so I've not been able to see it. But from what I understand, she plays a little sister of the leading actor, and that sort of gave her a taste for acting, and I think she really enjoyed it. Growing up, she always said that Gloria Swanson was one of her idols. She loved going to see her in the movies, and she would sort of, yeah, try to imitate her. So acting was like always in the back of her mind. Um, she finished school, and then in the 19 mid 1920s, she got a contract with Fox, and she made a few westerns there. Some of them, again, are lost, so I've not seen them all. Um, from what I understand, they're not necessarily remarkable films. Um,
They
but
never were.
no, she was again sort of like second lead, so
Mhm.
working her way up. And then in 1927, she got into a car accident, that the one that you mentioned. She was out on a date with her boyfriend, and they sort of like T-boned another car, and the windshield of their car that she was in smashed, and glass basically cut like half of her face, and she
Ooh.
had to, yeah, it was pretty horrific. She had to take a lot of time off. She had to have a lot of reconstructive surgery and plastic surgery, and sort of regroup. At the time that that happened, she was actually under contract by then with Max Sennett. She was let go at Fox because they thought she was a terrible actress. So
Oh,
not, yeah, so not too long after the Fox contract, she got a contract with Sennett. And I think that was probably for the best because Max Sennett's films, they're, as I said, they're primarily slapstick comedies, so there are a lot of wide shots, long shots. So the fact that she had like a facial scar didn't really detract from her performance. It wasn't about sort of the glamour of the close up, and Max Sennett really helped her sort of get back on her feet. She was with Senate from 1927 to 1929. She briefly had a contract with Pathé, 1929 to 1930. And then in 1930, she signed with Paramount. She was with them for 7 years. And it was during that time that she eventually developed into the screwball comedian that we best know her as. A lot of the screwball roles, I will say, were actually because of loan out deals to other studios. I think, in my opinion, Paramount didn't necessarily know what to do with her. They kind of put her in a lot of like mediocre films. And so some of her best performances during that era were at other studios. So, for example, 20th Century, she made at Columbia. My Man Godfrey, she made at Universal. Nothing Sacred, she made with David O. Selznick. So it was really to her benefit ultimately that Paramount kind of mismanaged her career. And then from 1937 to 1942, she was a freelance actor. So she had a lot of control over the types of roles that she played. She commanded a very high salary. She, in fact, in 1938, she made close to $500,000 in like 1937 dollar value. So you can imagine how much that is in our value today. That's a lot. Yeah, she was the first actress to negotiate profit participation in her contract. So, which means that she took a reduced initial salary, is about like $100,000 in exchange of percentage of the profits of her film. So, in the long term, that's very financially beneficial.
Very smart. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So she was a really incredible businesswoman on top of being a great actress. And she died in 1942, and I always think about, what she might have accomplished had she lived longer. Would she move into production? Would she have taken on more business opportunities in the industry? So it's a shame that she never got to live out those perhaps career ambitions that she had, but she had a remarkable career for the short life that she did live.
Yeah, absolutely.
And by no means was she one of those silly Hollywood girls that didn't know anything about what was going on with her career. She had her finger on the pulse, it seems, through the course of it, which is impressive for that time, because not a lot of women did. They would their money would be managed by somebody else, their estate would be managed by somebody else.
Yeah. And even something to as simple as like her publicity photo. She, in her freelance career, I should say, she held the rights to her image. So she controlled how she was being perceived by the public, what photographs would be disseminated to, in film publicity, for example. So she was very hands-on and very in tune with like how she was being perceived by the public, which I think is, as you said, quite rare for that time.
Yeah, absolutely. One silly question I really wanted to ask was her mother her manager? Because I think in our first episode about Carole, I didn't know whether, I think I said something along the lines of, I don't know whether Carole's mother was like Ginger Rogers' mother, who kind of had the first momager type thing, or the first stage mom. I don't know if Carole's mother was any similar to that.
She luckily was not. She was very supportive of Carole's career. Her agent was David O. Selznick's brother, Myron Selznick, and so they worked, had quite a long professional relationship. And at one point, actually, they had wanted to start their own production company with William Powell and the director Ernst Lubitsch. They were actually in the process of making an adaptation of what would eventually become like The Shop Around the Corner. It didn't fall, it fell through for various reasons, but if you can imagine what that film would have been like with Lombard and Powell as the leads, right? Very different.
I need that. Well, as much as I love what we got with Jimmy Stewart, no, that would have been funnier, way funnier.
Exactly.
Know what we know about William Powell? Yeah, that would have been great.
Right?
I'm glad that she didn't have as much good things that Ginger Rogers' mother did for her. I'm very glad it wasn't the same with Carole, because she was so smart and on it. I didn't want it to be sort of like it was her mother controlling everything, because it kind of gives me the ick a little bit.
It does. Yeah, it's hard when you hear those types of stories, right? Because
Yeah,
you don't know like what might have been had the parent,
not been
taken
that
a step back.
involved.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. So
yeah.
no, Carol's mother was, by all accounts, she was lovely. Carol, I think she was Carol's best friend. They were very close, and
Okay.
so it's probably very hard for Carol's two brothers that they lost both their mother and their sister in the
Yeah.
plane crash. But
Mm. How did Carol become involved with doing the war bond tours?
Yeah.
And what was it about that kept Gable home? Because I know that she encouraged him to enlist
mhm,
and he refused.
yeah.
Um, what was his reason for not going with her on the tour? Or was he kind of like doing his own thing separately?
So in Hollywood, shortly after the U.S. joined the war effort, Hollywood set up what was called the Hollywood Victory Committee, and Clark Gable was actually the chairman of that committee.
Yeah.
And through him, that's how Carol got involved in the war bond effort. She was always a very patriotic. In fact, in the late 30s, I think it was around 1938 as well, at the time when she was making like the most money, she actually said that she was glad that she paid the majority of her earnings went to taxes and that she was only left with $20,000 because she said that it
Only.
was
Back then,
exactly
right? Only.
exactly. She said it was like an investment in her country, and she's always a very proud American.
Yeah.
And so I think for her it was like natural to want to um, help out with the war effort. So she was very keen to go. The reason Clark Gable didn't go at the time, he was shooting a film called Somewhere I'll Find You. So I think it was probably a bit of a
Yes.
scheduling conflict for him
Yeah.
ultimately.
Okay.
But ultimately, as you said, after she died, he did enlist
Hmm.
as a tribute to her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We discussed it in the previous episode
Yeah.
about Carol, where we spoke at length about how essentially he wanted to go to his death every mission. And he kept
Yeah.
mission secret from who he was
Yeah.
contracted with because I know they weren't happy about him enlisting in the first place. And they
Yeah.
definitely weren't happy about him being a tail gunner on a
Yeah.
B-17.
Yeah.
Essentially, he was trying to go to his death to be with her.
Yeah.
Um, I think they're one of my favorite couples of the time. Can
Mhm.
we talk about their life together before we get into the really sad part of her untimely death?
Sure. So they worked together initially in 1932 on a film called No Man of Her Own. But at the time she was married to William Powell and he was also married to his second wife, although their marriage was sort of like in name
Yeah,
only. Yeah.
yeah.
It was complicated. And so nothing really happened when they were making that film. And then they met again several years later in 1936 at the Mayfair Ball, which was like an annual gala that all of Hollywood attended. And they really hit it off. And they dated publicly, despite the fact that he was still married to that second wife. Um, and eventually he divorced the wife, and most of his earnings from Gone with the Wind actually went to her alimony.
That's a
So
lot of money.
it was. And then so Carol and Clark got married in March of 1939, and they lived for the rest of her life at their ranch in Encino, which is in the valley in LA. And they had a very, I think, as normal as a life as it could be given the circumstances.
Right.
They
Yeah.
tried to maintain their privacy as best they could. Inside their home was sort of off limits. They wanted their private life to themselves. They had farm animals. They raised like chickens. They had horses, cows, and I think, for the most part, just liked being together. They were very different people. Like Clark Gable was the sort of Midwestern, salt of the earth kind of guy,
Hmm.
very unpretentious. Carol was a lot more boisterous and energetic and sort of the life of the party, and Clark was not. And so I think she very much sort of adapted her lifestyle to fit him,
Mm.
obviously out of love, right?
Yeah.
And I think they really loved each other and they had a good time together. So it's
Yeah.
it's sad that they their life together was cut so short. I don't know if they would have stayed married long term,
Mm.
but you know, you never know, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Very
seem
much
like they were
opposites
the,
attract, but
yeah,
Yeah.
they seem like they were the best of friends as well. In every picture
Yes,
you see of them, they look like they just enjoy being together, which is
absolutely.
very
And
sweet.
yeah, and I think Clark Gable, from all that I've studied, he had a bit of a sort of mercurial personality. He was
Mm,
very hot and cold, and I think Carol brought out sort of a lightness to him,
yeah.
and I think you really noticed that void in his life when she died, that he was not the same person. He was very introspective and sullen, and you can tell he missed her a lot. I don't think he
Yeah.
realized just how profound an impact that she had on him until she was gone.
Until she was gone,
yeah.
which is
Yeah,
incredibly sad.
yeah.
Um, so can we get into her unfortunate passing?
Hmm.
I'm always worried when we do these episodes that, especially the ones that Gabby and I do together, that I'm going to get it wrong. So I'm kind of using you as like a cleanup tool because I might have got it right, but it's nice for the professional to get the story straight. Um, they were going to get the train, am I correct? Carol and her mother, but then
Hmm.
Carol wanted to get home to Gable a lot quicker, so that's why they flew.
Yeah, so allegedly they took the train to Indiana from LA, which took a number of days at that time. And I think for Carol, the thought of being on a multi-day train journey to go back home was too much. It was an exhausting trip for her, and she just, wanted to get home as quickly as she could. And also, I should mention that on January 19th, she had a preview screening of To Be or Not to Be. So she was on a bit of a time crunch. And so
Yeah.
I think that really motivated her to want to take the plane home. And
Hmm.
it's funny, she wasn't really the type of person to sort of, use her fame to her advantage. But on one of the legs of that plane journey home, she actually sort of threw her weight around and said, I've sold all these war bonds. You got to get me on this flight. And so you
Yeah.
think if she hadn't gotten on that plane, if she hadn't made the connection,
Yeah.
um, would her fate have been different?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so she went to Indiana. She went to her hometown, Fort Wayne, and then Indianapolis to sell war bonds. And while she was there in Indianapolis, she sold actually over $2 million worth of war bonds in just a few hours, which I think at that time was a record. And that's, again, pretty remarkable if you consider the
Mm.
dollar value at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, and it was a sort of like a homecoming for her. She never really went back to Indiana all that often. Um, but I think it was sort of bittersweet to be there. Her father had passed away several years earlier, so but she got to reunite with some of her family. Her mom was with her, so it was an exciting trip for her. And unfortunately, on their way home, one of the plane legs home just outside of Las Vegas, the plane crashed into the side of Mount Potosi, and all 22 people on board unfortunately passed away. Um, and Carol was only 33, which is just terribly
Very
sad because
young.
she's so young.
Very young. Yeah. And her mother was with her too. Was her
Yeah.
agent with her or was it her publicist?
He was an MGM publicist, so he was
Hmm.
Clark
Yes.
Gable's one of their best friends. He was like their best man at
Yeah.
their wedding.
Oh God.
Yeah. So
I
he had a
Very
wife
always,
as well
sad.
at home. So it was, yeah, a
oof.
lot of
Oh,
family that
yeah.
was left behind.
I always
It's
find
very
it
sad.
like, I don't want to use the word interesting, but it's maybe harrowing that the reason the plane crashed was because of the blackout conditions for the war. So here she is
Yeah.
doing her patriotic duty for the
Hmm.
war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason her plane crashed is because there's blackout conditions from the war.
Yeah.
So it just, I don't know, it's just got this eerie feeling to it. When you put it in that perspective, it
Yeah.
feels
Yeah.
so eerie to me.
Could we
Yeah.
use the word ironic? Really?
Ironic that
I
I
the
think
think so.
reason
ironic.
Yeah.
she was doing this is the reason she ended up losing her life so
Yeah.
early.
Absolutely. Yeah. You think if conditions had been different, would the pilot have been able to see the mountain?
Right.
Would they have been on a different course? And
Or
there's so
should the
many.
pilot have even been flying in a blackout condition?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, they were also off course a bit. I think the pilot was used to going a certain route and
Hmm.
they weren't as familiar with the route that they were going on to LA. And so it was a pilot error, blackout. It was just this
Right.
combination of just horrible um, circumstances that led to
Yeah.
this unnecessary death of Carol and obviously all the 21 other people on the plane, which
Yeah.
is just so sad.
How do you feel about the Orson Welles theory that he wrote in his autobiography, where he says that they couldn't have crashed, they were shot down by spies,
You love the Orson
which
Welles
blew
theory.
my mind. I love
I
Orson Welles. I want to live
You
inside
too.
his
You
brain
love
for
the
20
Orson Welles
minutes.
theory. I'm starting to get on board with it a little bit.
I'm a probably as big of a Wellesian as I am a Lombard fan. I'm like a diehard
Wonderful.
Orson Welles fan.
Good.
I think um, I think he liked to tell a lot of stories, and depending on his audience, he knew he would get a certain reaction.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I don't personally buy it, but it's par for the course for Orson Welles. I'll
Yeah.
say that.
When we went through it and when we were researching for part one of this, we went through the Orson Welles theory and we were like, oh, why would he say that? And then it clicked to me that I was like, this man did War of the Worlds and he made people believe the world was ending. If you
Hmm.
turned on the radio 2 minutes too late, you think
Yeah.
aliens have crashed down onto Earth
Yeah.
and life as we know it
Yeah.
is ended. So of course he thought of something incredibly strange like this.
Right.
Um, I would have loved to live in his brain for just
Uh,
10 minutes,
yeah.
just to
Yeah.
see what's knocking around up there because he
All the
was
stories.
insane and I love it. He was
Yeah.
crazy. Um, post post Carol's
Mhm.
death, um, Joan Crawford replaced her in a picture. Am I correct?
Yes. So just before Carol was about to leave, she began like pre-production on a film called They All Kiss the Bride, which was a screwball comedy. And Joan Crawford ultimately took her role in honor of Carol, and she also donated her salary to the Red Cross in Carol's honor, which was very lovely to do. And
Yeah.
allegedly, I don't know if this is true or not, allegedly, when Joan Crawford's agent wanted his 10% cut, Joan was like, no, I don't think so. And apparently she fired him. I don't know if that's true or just sort
Good.
Ooh,
of like
No,
Hollywood myth, but
that makes a lot of sense
yeah,
with
that
Joan.
tracks for Joan Crawford. She took no
Yeah.
shit.
yeah, exactly.
You could tell
I
just by looking at her. She was business. That woman was all
yeah.
business.
Yeah,
At
don't
the
cross Joan.
No.
at the time of at the time of this recording, I just finished my annual rewatch of Baby Jane,
Oh,
because it's
love
getting close
it.
to Halloween.
Love
Um,
it.
and I just love how much these women despised each other. What did her death do for the rest of the war effort? She was classed as the first American female
Yeah.
casualty of World War
Hmm.
II. Did that have
Yeah.
a profound effect on the rest of the war and selling war bonds, or was it sort of it happened and it was forgotten about? We all move on.
No, it definitely, I think, inspired people to keep going with the war effort. Especially, people who are close to Carol. I think her death really touched them. For example, Jack Benny, the episode that he was recording immediately after her death, he was like so distraught that he couldn't
Yeah,
actually perform. So it was just like all music. If you watch or listen to some of his radio shows, he often mentioned war bonds on his show. I think people were definitely inspired by uh, the unfortunate sacrifice that Carol made. And, Hollywood was very involved with the war effort, both at the production level. Of course, they made films that were um, in support of the troops. And stars also continued her efforts across the country. They also went to various states, cities to sell bonds. So I think Carol is definitely inspiring in that way.
yeah. I assume she would be because it
Hmm.
also, I think, made her fellow stars all the more brave to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
to be able to leave the comfort, I would say, the comfort of Hollywood and Los
Yeah.
Angeles and
Hmm.
go back out into these towns that they haven't returned to since
Yeah.
finding their fame.
Yeah.
Even just connecting with regular people, right? Just
Yeah,
connecting with the
regular, yeah.
American people.
Yeah.
Like, we're giving, you should give too. We're all doing
Hmm.
it together. There's no class division
Yeah.
here, which I think is very
Yeah.
impressive.
I'm literally giving
Absolutely.
the front and back bumpers of my car. Why don't you give the front and
Was
back
that that
Yeah.
bumpers
was
of
was
your
that
car?
Rita Hayworth?
That was Hayworth, yeah.
That was Hayworth, yeah.
It was a scrap metal drive, I think, and the scrap metal was then repurposed
Yeah.
as
Hmm.
something else that I can't think of. But yes, she donated the front and back bumpers of her car, and it encouraged other regular people to do the
Yeah.
same thing.
Can't donate
Yeah.
the
I
front and
mean,
back
and
bumpers of your car now. It's not even
Can't do it
no.
now.
they're not even metal.
And I mean, never mind also like all the stars that did also enlist beyond like Clark Gable. You had Jimmy Stewart, you had Robert Taylor, I believe, enlisted. You had Frank Capra. He made films specifically for the army. So yeah, a lot of participation from Hollywood, which, as you said, it was like an equalizer. These people,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
were serving with just average Americans.
Yeah, even the
Yeah,
men
just the
in the sports
regular
industry,
Joes.
like,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
men who played baseball, Lou Gehrig and Joe DiMaggio, they did Lou Gehrig? I don't quote me on Lou Gehrig. I know Joe DiMaggio did.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I know he served
he definitely did.
because, men's baseball was shut down for a
Yeah.
large portion of the
Mm,
war.
Yeah.
nothing else to do.
Nothing else to
Yeah.
What
do, so
was
they sent in the girls.
as
Exactly.
they should. What was the general reaction to Gable enlisting so soon after Carol's death?
Yeah.
I think people, I think they understood it that it was coming from grief. I mean, at that point, he was 41. He didn't have to serve. He was obviously much older
Yeah,
than the
Right.
yeah.
average
Average guy.
man who enlisted. But I think they understood that he wanted to do it as a tribute to her. And I think MGM helped facilitate that because, of course, again, he was a bit too old. But
Yeah.
and he ultimately he did work on a number of films in support of the war effort. So while he did actually, physically serve overseas, he also worked with like motion picture units back home as well.
I mean, you could look at it as he did it as like a suicide mission,
Mm,
which
That seems
is
to be the
that
general sort of
seems to be the general
consensus.
consensus. It's so
yeah,
heartbreaking
yeah,
that
Yeah.
he's exempt from having to serve. His
yeah,
wife just died tragically. What's the first thing he does? He signs up to
hmm,
be a tail gunner on a B-17
yeah,
and essentially just wait it out to see, like, is this going to be the flight that kills me?
I
yeah. I
don't
don't think he
know,
cared if he
yeah.
came
No,
back or
I don't think
not.
he
Like,
cared at
yeah,
that
Yeah.
point in his
I'm
life.
not
And
sure if there's any truth to it, but he was heard saying that he shouldn't go on missions. It was too dangerous. He was too hot of a commodity to put his life at risk.
mm,
And he
hmm,
said, I just want to be with Ma. I just want to be with
yeah,
Carol. I just want to
mhm.
be with. I don't
yeah,
know if there's any truth to that quote, but the first time I read it, it destroyed me.
It's so
And then I
sad.
find out that
yeah,
he was writing letters to the wives and the mothers of the men that were killed in action or
hmm,
they were taken as POW. And he would
hmm,
spend his time just writing these letters and saying how grieved he was and how he understood their grief because he was
yeah,
also it's incredibly sad. And then we got to the
yeah,
part of Hitler putting out a reward for if Gable was
yeah,
shot down. You can't kill him because I want
yeah.
him to be my
Isn't that crazy?
That's
performing seal. That was
Yeah,
right.
insane.
Dance monkey dance. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. Was there any
God.
truth to that, or am I going
That's what I've
insane?
heard. Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah, it's just I think it ultimately I think serving did help him process grief in that initial first few years as best he could. Obviously, I don't think he ever got over Carol's death. I think that stayed with him for the rest of his life. But I think being with his being in that environment, I think being away from Hollywood really allowed him to process
Mm,
her death
Mhm.
probably in the best way that he could. So I think
yeah.
it was obviously a very tough thing for him to have gone through, but I think that was probably the best place he could be given the
Yeah.
circumstances.
Yeah,
Oh, for
grief is a
sure.
funny thing.
What
Yeah.
was it that he ended up with Virginia Gray?
So he came back to LA on leave. I believe it was December of 1943. And so Jill Winkler, who was the widow of Otto Winkler, who also died in the crash with Carol,
Okay.
she invited Clark over for like a Christmas celebration. Virginia had worked at MGM, so she knew all the same
Yeah.
people. So she was invited to this party, and that's where they met, and they were together. Basically until around the time that Clark married his fourth wife.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
surprise of,
Yeah.
hey, I married Lady, what was her name? Lady
Sylvia
something.
Ashley. Yeah.
Yes. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden she's thrown to the background.
Yeah.
I'm going a bit off course, but it does relate back to a previous episode we have done.
Hmm.
Did Virginia Gray have an affair with John Basilone, or is that myth? Is
Yes.
that
No, they
rumor?
did. They did.
They did?
Yes.
Wow.
This is very funny because we're actually friends with his great niece
No
through
way.
doing
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Oh, no
So
way.
the this connection, and
This
I
is
didn't know about
wild.
it until this morning,
Yeah.
is insane. Um,
Right.
but
And
yeah,
how do you
she's
tell your friend we know your uncle had an
we
affair?
know Uncle
That's
had an
so
affair,
funny.
and the person we just spoke to is writing a book about her. Why don't we
Yeah.
all have a
I
party?
actually I cover it actually in my book. So yeah,
Ooh.
Virginia and John Basilone, they did a war bonds tour
Yeah, what bonds
basically
all
in like around New
together.
Jersey. Yeah.
Right,
And
right.
Yeah,
so they spent a lot of time together while they were on the road there. And Virginia,
yeah.
apparently they went to go see Mr. Lucky one time at the movie theater, the Cary Grant movie. Yeah, he from his memoirs, I think he said that she was just like a really like down to earth, like no nonsense kind of person.
Right.
And yeah, she really loved spending time with him. So
That's
it was a
really
brief
nice.
affair, but yeah, it
Yeah,
was
So
and
for all
memorable,
of
I
our
also
think.
listeners, this is pre Lena Basilone. I
this is way,
he
yeah, this is
did not
months
just
before.
because I know somebody will be like, John Basilone cheated
Oh
on
my
Lena Basilone.
God.
No,
No,
no. He
absolutely
did
did
not.
not.
He did
So
not.
that's who in the Pacific, that's who he is in
Yeah.
Yeah.
bed with, played
Yes.
Diana
Holy
Tall.
cow.
Yes. Correct.
Wow.
My mind is blown
Whoa.
because now we've got something to tell our friend, which
Mhm.
is
Small
excellent.
world,
Mhm.
right?
Very, very small, only getting smaller.
Yes.
Um,
Whoa.
to finish, I would love to know what your favorite Carol movie is, and also what your
Ooh.
favorite old Hollywood movie is. They can be
Ooh.
the same, they
Right.
Okay.
can be totally different. I'm just so curious to know what yours are in particular.
Um, so my favorite, I'll give you two because I have sort of a tie. My two favorite Carol
Mhm.
movies are Nothing Sacred from 1937 and then Hands Across the Table from 1935. Hands Across the Table, I think, is just such a funny, charming, romantic comedy. It was the first film that she made with Fred MacMurray, and they have such good chemistry. There's a scene, I won't go too long on this, but there's a scene that they shot where they're supposed to be on the phone with Fred MacMurray's character's fiance, and they actually like start break down laughing at the end of the scene, and the director decided to leave that moment in the film because he just thought it was so charming and cute. And
Mm.
I think that's just like a good story to sort of captures the fun of that film. And then Nothing Sacred, it was her only feature-length film that she made in Technicolor, so it was like the rare opportunity to see her
Yeah.
uh, outside of black and white.
Mm.
And I think I think it's a very sharp film. It's still very relevant today. Um, she plays a woman who pretends to be dying of radium poisoning to sort of get a free trip to New York, and she becomes like this micro celebrity, and she sort of puts one
Wow.
over on everybody. It's just a really fun, very physical film, and I think it really showcases her skills as a comedian.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite old Hollywood movie in
Oh,
general outside of Carol's
uh,
work?
probably that's a hard question. It changes day to day. I think one of my like top favorites though is probably like Remember the Night with Barbara Stanwyck and Fred MacMurray. It's
Yes, it's a great movie.
I watch it every Christmas. I think it's just so charming and sweet.
Yeah,
And again, Fred MacMurray has such great chemistry with Barbara Stanwyck, and
yeah,
the story's just so wonderful. I can't get over it.
Is that one a
yeah,
It's a Christmas movie, then I'm assuming?
yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Okay. So I'll throw it into my Christmas.
Controversial
I'll throw it into my
opinion.
Christmas rotation this
Yeah,
year
let
then.
You
me
should.
give you the Halloween list and also the Christmas list because
Yeah.
we have a lot to get through for the next couple of months in terms of
My Christmas rotation is pretty
celebrations.
standard. It's usually like White Christmas, The Holiday, Home Alone,
That's
National
fair.
Yeah,
National
yeah,
Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Pretty
yeah.
standard. And pretty
That's
basic. So anything I can
I'm
add to it is
gonna
always good.
I'm gonna need you to watch The Shop Around the Corner and The Man Who
yes.
Came to Dinner. Both of those are so so good. Um, it happened on Fifth Avenue.
That's an
Great
underrated one.
movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very good.
Yeah.
Um, there's one more that I keep forgetting, but when it pops up on Tubi or Pluto or something, I'll be like digging my claws in and sending it to you,
The
Gabby.
Bishop's Wife is good.
Yes, that's it. That was the one.
Oh, is it? Yeah, yeah. It's so,
Yes,
yeah,
that's
it's
really
sweet.
good.
Yeah.
Hey, you want Christmas cheer and to cry? Take this.
Right? And just cry into my eggnog for a little while.
It's a great movie. So great.
Yeah.
But yeah. Thank you so much for doing this. This has been
What a
so
treat.
fun.
Thank you for having me. I
Absolute
loved it.
treat, of
Yeah, I had a lot of
course.
fun.
Wonderful. Thank you everybody for listening.
Yes, thank you
And
for sticking with
we'll
us.
see you next time. Yeah.
See you all next time.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye everyone.